And we're back once again, only on its Last Call. Last Call to the Alcohol, only on the Last Call YouTube show. And that's right, Kevin Apollo is back. As I said, he was gunning today for Joey Chestnut. And then he realized, oh crap, I have to eat all those hot dogs. And I can't put mustard on them. And then they're not gonna let me drink hard liquor. Oh god damn it. My figure will go away. So that's why he's back after 2 weeks. He was training. He's back, and after yesterday's episode, WWE, we're going to full on the rest of the wrestling. That's right. I'm giving you once again the Wardog himself, the man with the largest natural arms in the world, Kevin Apollo. So, Kevin, let's start off here. We're kicking off with AEW because Tony Khan said, "Hey, they are AEW 2025. They're in the best place ever. Kevin, they're doing great. Everything is great, Kevin. So." He's even said, but business is picking up. They are in a better place than they've ever been.
Yeah.
And as soon as I said that, I could just hear like the rage steam coming out of you. So, Kevin, I'm letting loose. I'll let loose the hounds of war. Just tell us what you really feel when you hear those statements.
Listen, man, there's no substitute for some good old delusion and some spin. It speaks for itself, man. You can't tell me with a straight face that business is picking up when no one's watching your show. You can't fill arenas. You're canceling shows left and right. In terms of the public zeitgeist, you're either unknown or you're something to laugh at. It's we're just 5 years on. Listen, I say this all the time, right? A brand new company, when they hit the 5 6 year mark, should still be they should still be, they're still in their infancy, they're still climbing. They should still be in an exponential growth period, and they went straight from growth to retrenchment. This is a company that skipped the maturity phase. They didn't actually solidify their audience. They peaked, and then they immediately started diving into a valley. And if it wasn't for their deal with Warner Brothers, they would be an unknown entity right now. People, I don't know why, but well, I mean, fine, the Hogan era, but and that was still relatively short when you look at the whole of the company. But people crap all over TNA and crapped all over TNA before the Hogan era. But look at what they did with the time that they had. No matter how few people wound up watching TNA on Destination America when no one even knew it was a channel, that they still have 500,000 more people watching when no one knew what it was than AEW currently has now. And I don't want to hear any now, oh well, TV viewership has changed, blah 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 blah, all that bullshit, whatever, who cares? The people still watch TV, people still like to watch wrestling live, and we also had DVR numbers back then. So we know that TNA on at its worst, on a channel no one they had, was still pulling in like five, anywhere from, I think, like 6 to 700,000 people. And when you factored in the DVR numbers, they could occasionally still pull 1 million without being on Spike. This show, we got to what, Dynamite 300, and what did they do? They barely did they even hit
Oh, we'll get to
350?
Dynamite 300 in a bit. That's a whole different story. But
You know,
getting back to Tony Khan, he's promoting All In. He said,
mm,
hey, he's going to get the greatest rivalry ever. It's going to be
never know.
Kazuchika Okada versus Kenny Omega. Hey, we're going to get, a Texas death match.
Ooh,
By the way, we might get, like, as the AEW Momo said, you might get 12 run ins at least,
mm-hmm.
maybe more.
Dude,
Might have a couple older guys run in just because, well, we got to have older guys run in. And when I mean old, like old enough to be our parents.
well, right. The one these pay-per-views are just too long. I don't care. The You could tell Tony was a kid during the early 2000s when all these indie-rific shows were like 12, 13 matches. Those shit sucked back then. Like, I don't care what you say. If you were in the crowd for that era of wrestling, when you were like in your super early 20s, like you probably still had a little BS job, probably didn't have a girlfriend, when you didn't have shit to do and you had nothing but energy to burn, yeah, sure, fine, hanging out all day and watching wrestling from freaking 5 o'clock till 12:30 at night was okay. But the second you get a little older and you have shit to do, that gets real old real quick. Now, just imagine being trapped in the locker room for one of these shows, and you're on early, and it's still frowned upon to walk out of the building, and now you're just watching this shit drag on and on and on and on, and guys don't respect their time, so a match that was only supposed to be 7 minutes is now going on for 12, adding even more time onto the bullshit, dude. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. I don't care. You're not getting bang for your buck when it's just shit match after shit match after shit match, and half those shit matches are all the same anyway. Someone's gonna dive, someone's gonna botch the dive, someone's gonna kick out of something they shouldn't have kicked out of. Then we're gonna do 15 more high spots, and then we're gonna have a really weird, dumb, awkward finish. It's like we know what we're gonna get, but it's lame. And listen, I don't blame Tony for trying to obfuscate and fib about the numbers. That's his job. Publicly, that's his job. Right? He's the carnival barker. He's got to tell everybody that everything's fine. He that's his role. Where I get pissed with what Tony is, all right, brother. It's been 6 years. You've had a lot of very talented people behind the scenes with you. You should have at least started the show signs that you have figured this out by now. Because at the end of the day, I've said it a billion times, wrestling is not hard. It's not hard. All you have to do is trigger, all you have to do is trigger base human emotion, and know when to spoon feed it to people, and know when to let them make the connections for themselves. Outside of that, you let athletes beat athletes and try to find new ways to tell the same eight stories. Um, but they are still just doubling down on their bullshit, doing lame stuff. And at this point, it's like they made lesbians boring, they made blood boring. Um, there is no real taste for the mega violence in the American wrestling watching audience. That's why CZW, as old as it is, still will always only be a New Jersey shindy, or even I guess what technically it's a Pennsylvania shindy, but it will still always only ever be a shindy. So it's like it's I just don't understand, like you have I don't know, man. It's a mark show funded by a money mark with infinite funds, and it's just by virtue of having the amount of money they have, and access to the talent they have, the show should just be better. It should just be better. And unfortunately it's not. And it's never going to get better because they clearly, unless you have some kind of substantive management change, this is what this show is going to be.
Why doesn't he hire somebody to do the PR in terms of just going and talking? Because that's not his strong suit. He does
Mm.
not. Like, we
No.
get a picture here, and people are going to make fun of me. Go, oh yeah, you're dumping on AEW. This is what he looks like,
Yep.
and he is a dork. And I don't mean that in a negative way.
Yeah. No. No.
He's
Yeah.
not
I
a
got you.
social guy. He's not a cool guy. He is not somebody who you sit in there and he just like a Steve Buscanotti of the Baltimore Ravens, or even the late Jim Irsay, could tell stories, get people eating that palm of their hand, and make friends easily. That's not who he is. He is
Even his dad, Shad Khan is a charming person. When the few times he gets out and talks, like you can tell he's very much so a businessman. Tony's just not that guy. He's just not, like you said, he's just a dweeb. He's a dweeb, and I don't say I don't pretend to be anything other than what I am. I'm a freaking nerd, but by virtue of having to go out and do things, I know how to swing a conversation. Tony is just super awkward. Um, and again, listen, there you've got certain kinds of promoters especially when you go out in the indies, right? There's the money mark who just loves it so much they want to burn money on it. They don't care. And then there's the money mark who wishes they could be a wrestler, never could be a wrestler, but spends money on it so they could say, "Look at all the wrestlers I'm standing around." And I don't care that you're just some indie guy and that nobody knows who the hell you are. It's just the fact that you put on the tights and get in the ring. That's enough for them. That's enough for them. Tony is the guy who just wants to spend money to be in the in the wrestler's orbit. But when you throw him on TV, his his inability to maintain a basic human conversation he just it sticks out like a sore thumb. Like you might as well just it's like you might as well just go on the TV and hit himself in the hand with a hammer and then hold it up. That's how ridiculous he looks. So you're right. Yes, they should have someone out there who can go do the press, who can, be the front facing wheeling and dealing person for AEW. But Tony will never let that happen because he's such a dork. This is his chance to shine. This is the well, no one ever paid attention to me. Now you have to pay attention to me. It's so he has a taste for the camera. He can't get enough of it, and he loves the adulation from the sickos, right? Because they cheer everything he does, even though it's undeserved. He loves the adulation from the dirt sheets, the Meltzers, the Sean Ross Saps, because he gives them access and lets them feel important. So the he this is just him doing the equivalent of a lazy indie wrestler's version of getting their shit in. Tony's getting his shit in. So that's why it'll never change. That's why they'll never hire an actual booker who understands how to book wrestling, pace it out, tell the story. It's why he'll never hire an actual director of talent relations who actually has the authority to discipline, to discipline, hire, fire. Tony does everything because Tony needs to be able to say he can do everything, although we know he doesn't really actually do everything, right? Talent has an issue, or Tony doesn't want to resign you, so he glad hands you and then he dead you disappears, right? He handles things in the most outlandishly unprofessional ways you can think of. The To the point that it's laughable, but this is a product of his ego. This is a product of his ego, his lack of it, and his lack of business acumen.
All In is going to be coming up within a little over a week. Right now, it's going to be in Texas of all places, and it's trending to right now have uh, 19,000 tickets. We're talking about Globe Life Field, which can hold probably, if it's packed, about 40,000 and change.
Yeah. Hmm.
How's it? Why is this card not doing well? I mean, I get it, and then people are going, "Oh, it's AEW." I'm trying to be polite. It's July 4th, and we're going to be in a good mood. We're going to have some food. Kevin's going to have some beers later on to cook out, and we're trying not to get upset yet. Give it time, but why is this card going to, well, as the cool kids would say, suck ass and swallow?
Bro, because think about it. AEW is not the cool wrestling company. And it hasn't been. It never has been. So it's not. Think about, I guess, here's kind of a way to go about it. Um, when you when you when you think about WWE, right? We all know that WWE was not well, not saying that it's not popular now. Or Cody's on cereal boxes and movies. There's a 24-hour wrestling channel. But what I mean specifically is in the late 90s, from 97 to what 2002, WWF was the most popular thing that you could think of. 98 to 99, or 98 to 2000. It's 98 to 2000. It had just an absurd amount of attention in the public zeitgeist. Wrestlers are on every sitcom you could think of. Didn't matter what the network was. The occasional movie, people were in comic books, blah 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 blah. When you combine the ratings of Raw and Nitro, they were oftentimes together beating Monday Night Football. So that's how many people were watching wrestling at that point in time. But when you jump down to 96, 95, 94, no one wanted anything to do with wrestling. It was lame. If you liked it, it was like, I can't believe you still like that crap. You're not 4 years old anymore, or or anything else you could think of. And what was on the TV screen? It was like Bastion Booger and Mantar and just a whole bunch of lame bullshit that we all F at right now. But the WWE was a joke. AEW is in the WC, I want to say I can't I don't even think they're that bad. I think they're probably like pre they're probably like pre Bischoff WCW in terms of where they fall in the zeitgeist. They're the number two company. They're the wannabe company league. Either filled with a bunch of old WWE guys who shouldn't be wrestling anymore, or a bunch of people who can never make it to WTV. And I'm not saying that as someone, I'm not trying to be shitty. I'm saying that's as someone who doesn't watch wrestling. That's how AEW comes across. It's the wannabe league. So now you when you put it on, because people understand how to watch wrestling now. Like they know, they understand how to think about it. They want compelling story. You're not going to get that in AEW. You're going to see a bunch of You're going to see a bunch of Cirque du Soleil bullshit, and it's stunning the first time you see it. But what happens when you hit the 15-minute mark? You get tired of seeing it. You're mentally exhausted. Then someone like Adam Cole comes in, like, how's that guy a wrestler? He's my 13-year-old daughter is bigger than this guy. So it's just it's not cool to watch. So like I would say, like, promote, like, here's a truth that people don't really want to accept, especially in the indie level. The wrestling promoter, their job is to secure the building. The job is to secure the building and provide you the outlet to grab the public's attention. Wrestling tickets are sold by the wrestlers. It's the wrestlers who sell the tickets. Either by being just physically impressive, it's a feat to behold, or through the incredible drama that their interpersonal beefs generate. But it's up to the wrestler to sell it. When you put on AEW TV, with the exception of a Wardlow, a Hobbs, a Bobby Lashley, Samoa Joe, um, trying to think, um, a couple bigger guys. The There's no one
No,
on that.
they've done a horrible job with the Lashleys,
You know,
Wardlows.
and they've killed them all. They've killed them all. Like, we got to be honest, right? Like, but I'm saying, if you flip through, if I see Brody King, other than the fact that he's just a tall soy boy, but when I see Brody King and I don't know anything about his Twitter, I go, who the hell is that guy? He looks like a killer. But when you watch the show long enough, and you see how they're presented, you're like, oh man, I don't give a shit about this. And then the guys who get all the attention look like they've been starved, and that Sally Struthers is trying to get you to donate $1 a day so they don't die on you. There's nothing here to make you want to go see the show. Like, it's not cool. There's nothing for me to want to pay attention to. It feels less than. They're not going to move tickets. They've moved the amount of tickets. And listen, I think the copium is going to tell everyone, they sold 20,000 tickets. It's the largest gate in AEW's North American history. Yeah, so there's plenty to celebrate here. There was no failure there, but it's still a tremendous failure. If they had been smart and tried to get a 15,000 person arena, um, you know, you would have had a tremendous sellout. You would have needed to put more seats in, and we'd be talking about their tremendous success. Instead, you went to a 40,000 person arena and you didn't even fill it up halfway. And we know that out of the 19,000, probably 2,000 of those seats, if not more, are seats that got soaked up by corporate entities that are going to be handed out. They're going to be handed out to employees. So it's not like they really truly sold it out. They didn't really truly sell this out. The so and when we put it on the TV, the visual of that empty arena is going to be jarring. So now you can't even fake the funk on live TV, right? Because you can crank up the audio, you can do your damnedest to try to shoot the crowd from one side, but they're at some point in time they're going to have to go wide, and you're going to see them in that empty stadium, and again it's gonna drive home the fact that this is the second rate Chinese dropship company, equivalent, Timu of wrestling, and until Tony can get his ego under control and starts running smaller venues and takes the time to rebuild the fan base and takes the time to start telling compelling stories and takes the time to start pushing the wrestlers who should be pushed, because yes, this is an aesthetic business first. The this we're going to be having the same conversation until someone chooses not to renew this show, and it's probably going to be sooner rather than later, because they are now there because now they're in the 500s more often than they're not.
Well, that brings me to the next topic here. That is AEW Dynamite 300. They're bringing this up. I want to show everybody here. Dynamite 100, 1 million viewers.
Mm-hmm.
Dynamite 200, 894 viewers. Okay, little bit of a shrinkage. Dynamite 300, 584,000 viewers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've lost half the audience here. Is it time to panic right now? So I keep saying, no, we're great. We're great. I have great relationships with all the people from WBD.
Yep. Oh,
There's
well,
gonna be a part where he's like, I'm in trouble here.
we don't have the max numbers, is what Meltzer would be screaming.
Oh yeah,
But,
so
but
20,000 extra viewers. Okay, so we're at 600,000, let's say.
if even, sorry, if even the at the end of the day, yeah, but they should have been panicking. They should have been panicking when they got kicked off of TNT and got moved to TBS, right? That should have been your first hint. The show's been performing well enough to be on the A channel, so we'll put you on the B channel. The B channel's a little older. She's got sturdy bones, but you can't be on the more important channel. Okay, great. Now the audience starts falling off. You're right. Remember that first year of the NBA playoffs. When quote unquote Black Twitter got their hands on AEW and roasted the show from top to bottom for 2 weeks. That should have been the first time you started ringing the fire alarm, going, hey, the Twitter is tearing us up, and it's the side of Twitter that is going to most likely be what the normal person is thinking. Then we get to the next year, and now we went from struggling to be in the millions to the upper nines, and now our normal place is the mid to low eights, and when it's a big show, maybe we can hit the high eights, and then we get to the next show, and we go from being in the mid eights, now we're in the low sevens, and it's they every year for the last 5 years, conservatively, this show has lost. This show has lost anywhere from 20 to 30% of its core audience. Everything isn't fine. Everything isn't fine. So, I'm pretty sure this is the prediction I made probably one of the first few times that when we spoke, when I said when we get out of the NBA playoffs, they're going to be in the high fives.
Well,
And we're listen, like I said, man, we're getting real close to the danger. There's no reason to have this show on the air zone, right? Because the magic number is 500. Once you get below 500, there is they don't even have. It's not even worth attempting to do network sync, because you can't cobble together a demo big enough, for networks to want to invest in spending in. So we're in a danger zone right now. We are in a danger zone.
speaking of danger zone, Kevin, you're in the danger zone. I want to let you know I had a talk with Mercedes Monet. Well, not directly, but from her newsletter. She said, "Hey, stop calling me Mercedes Hogan. Mercedes, you are just jealous, Kevin. She's not on WDB TV. that her fans love her. She is the greatest wrestler of all time. You didn't know that? She just beat Mina Shirakawa. She'll be taking on Tony Storm at All In for all the titles. And I've been keeping told by all the internet people, hey, she doesn't have creative control. Yeah, just don't listen to her. She lied when she was talking to TMZ.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I can
yeah, yeah.
feel you get pissed whenever I mention Mercedes because you're just sitting there like,
Dude, I'm the greatest of all time. No, you're the middest. You're the middest of the mid. You're the middest wrestler of all time. Like the she Mercedes is only as good as her dance partner is better at the end of the day. So what is she? What is Sasha without Charlotte? So this is someone running around being a cosplay being a cosplay superstar, and it's not working. I mean, listen, she's told. At this point, I'd be humiliated because she's completely exposed. She is completely exposed as a product of the WWE machine. And without the machine to tell everybody that she's a star, everybody can see that she isn't one. Doesn't matter how loud or how long she's screaming she's a star. Anybody with half a brain fully understands this chick is a nobody. And it doesn't matter how many prop toy belts you throw up on her shoulders, no one's buying it. No one's buying it. And when she goes to beat Tony Storm, who's gonna give a shit? Tony Storm doing the Joan Crawford thing has run the well have runneth dry a year ago. A year ago. The why after she defeated Mariah after she defeated Mariah, why didn't the character change? Why hasn't the character updated? Why are we back to the same old bullshit we were doing 2 years ago? When no one really understood what it was then, but because AEW is so devoid of character, people were willing to lie to themselves and talk about how brilliant this was. Oh, so what? Because she says tits in a promo, we're supposed to pretend like it's good. All right, great. Listen, I'm sorry. I grew up during the Shane Douglas era, so if I want to hear some outlandish stuff in a promo, I'll go watch Shane Douglas. I'll go watch Joel Gertner, and then play those promos side by side to whatever horse shit's coming out of Tony Storm's mouth, and go, okay, kid, you tell me which one's actually better, and watch Tony Storm lose 10 out of 10 times. The so it's um just because something on the substandard show is a little less substandard than everything else you're getting doesn't mean that I have to pretend it's good. I'm just going to tell you it's better than what we're getting, but by and far it is not good. So when these two inevitably wrestle and Mercedes inevitably beats her and she holds on to yet another belt that no one gives a shit about, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Because unless this whole Britt Breaker thing is a really big ruse to generate some kind of steam behind her coming back, and Britt is the one to finally defeat Mercedes, what was the point of any of this? What was the point of it? Where do you go from here? Where do you go from here? What?
it's funny. You and I talked yesterday about Becky Lynch, and you can at least argue with Becky, like she's come back and her job is, she seems like she's hell bent on helping get Lyra
Mm-hmm.
Valkyria over.
Yep.
Whether it's right or wrong, that's what she wants to do. She's already jobbed to Lyra once. She's still in the major feud. Now Bailey is involved. They're trying to get somebody to that next level. Are you disappointed? But Mercedes hasn't done that yet. You can argue that the only person who's benefited right now from working with Mercedes Monet is Stephanie Vaquer, who then took off with WWE. Everybody else has been like, oh, back to the line or back to the Phantom Zone or
Yep. Yep.
injured.
Well, all right. They had a chance to do something special with Harley, and they botched it. By having Harley come out and cut that stupid promo the next week, and just didn't capitalize on it because she just has it's a rarity when you can see a wrestler take their outside of the ring skills and introduce them to their character, and it's compelling. And Harley's the kind of talent where it's like, no, like Harley's the kind of wrestler who should be in the WWE, where you'll have the creative freedom and the budget to do all kinds of the weird shit that you want to do, and they have enough of a writing team with a strong enough base that they can develop it and help you hone it. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't, and you keep swinging. Whereas here, like they let her go, and then no one has the foresight to go, you're pushing a little too far now. It's hokey. But on the Mercedes side, no, Mercedes isn't going to put anybody over because she has no interest in putting anybody over. This is about feeding her ego, and this is where she's missing the Hogan comparison. Because and honestly, I would say we're being unfair to Hulk Hogan. We're being unfair to Hulk Hogan by calling her Mercedes Hogan, because Hogan at least had the ability to look around the locker room and go, "Hey, although I need to stay on top, I need someone who can challenge me, who we can build up, so that I got to be able to make them so that when I go to get my win back, I still look big." So right, Hollywood Hogan, the biggest POS on wrestling. He realized that Lex Luger is hottest than he's ever been. It's finally time to get Lex Luger to the next level. And what does he do? He taps out in the torture rack, gives Lex Luger one of the most memorable victories in wrestling. He sees Bill Goldberg coming up, and what does he? He immediately gets Goldberg associated with Hogan's talent lawyer, and make sure that all of his friends make sure Goldberg stays protected. He stays in Bischoff's ear, and when he realizes, okay, this guy is red hot. This is the guy who needs to beat me. It's like so, and he turned Goldberg into one of the single greatest wrestling attractions. Where I will say, if you're a wrestler on a roster and you're bitching about Goldberg being in the main event slot, and you're a young guy, well, your job is not to be a pissy bitch about it. Your job is to look at how to become as big of a draw as Goldberg is 30 fucking years later, that people are lining up to watch him wrestle someone. Because you're not on TV because you did something wrong. Goldberg's on TV because he did something right. Yeah, so it's like Mercedes has not taken the time to put anybody over, and she's not going to put anybody over because it's only about her. It's only about her. And even the dumbest bastard in the sport understands that it takes two to tango. And if you want to stay on top, there has to be a yin. There has to be a yin to the yang. Hogan understood that he needed Piper. Piper understood that he needed Hogan. Hogan wanted to beat Piper. Piper realized that he wasn't going to put over Hogan, but they realized that they needed each other. Same thing. Brett and Perfect. Brett didn't want to do the singles run, but they were going to make him do it, and they made magic. And what happened? Perfect catapulted Brett into the next level. Shawn and Martel. That Shawn Martel feud catapulted Shawn to the next level. You need people to clash against to elevate your status, to cement your glory. And this dummy is just so fixated on being a mark and getting wins. Who gives a shit that you're the House of Glory fucking champion? Who cares? No one cares. No one goes to hog shows. If they didn't have Master P money, you wouldn't have been booked. So it's like, who cares? Who gives a shit? Yeah, who cares? So Mercedes gonna get another win. No one's gonna be watching this show. No one's gonna be watching this pay-per-view. It's what you gotta put. Now it's just another paragraph in her fucking insipid newsletter.
Well, we're gonna hang on to women for a bit here. Yes, Dynamite 300. We saw Hangman Page, having a stare off with John Moxley, Marina Shafir, or basically AEW's China comes in, tries to hit him. He blocks it. He threatens to take the briefcase, and then later on he hits a buckshot, which is that flip over the top rope and then running clothesline on Marina Shafir. What the f? I mean, look, I understand. You and I have talked about this. How I'd love to have a nasty villain who does stuff like this. Granted, villain, not hero.
Yep,
And
heroes don't do this.
yes, and also it's like if you're AEW keeps saying, "Oh, we want to get more mainstream, we want to get families." How do you sell this when it's like, when little Jimmy and Timmy are watching this, or even
Mhm.
Shaquille and they're going, "Mom, why the guy hit the woman?" And it's like,
Well, bro, well, let's break this down even more to a more basic level. But yes, sure, fine. Marina Shafir, MMA, blah blah blah, bullshit, blah 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 blah. Well, let's go down to when Austin stunned China for the first time. Austin stunned China for the first time after China, who was bigger than a lot of the guys in the roster, had what almost 3 years of being untouched and ruining finish after finish, laying out legends, laying out Slaughter, laying out Patterson, laying out Briscoe, killing Foley, the laying out ref after ref. Like, you remember when all the refs jumped on China and she did the giant spot where she threw them all off. Like,
yes,
China was built up to be a mega destructive monster. Um, Stone Cold, even though he was the baby face, you're calling him a rattlesnake, which means he's volatile, right? So the stage was set. They do it on a house show, gets pop. They they waited almost 7 months before they decided it was okay enough to do on TV. And then he finally hits her with the stunner, and the roof pops off the building. Um, but he didn't punch her. I don't even think he kicked her. I think he just hit the stunner. Yeah, but he didn't ball his fist and punch her. Um, Hangman Page with his beautiful, voluminous, shiny Vidal Sassoon perm is already unconvincing as a cowboy, right? With his little, West
hey,
Virginia is for
you watch
lovers.
that, Kevin. He knows Mexicans. He worked the fields with them in his
Yeah,
range. He told me that. He told all of us there in Mexico. In Mexico, so as he calls it, he's a cowboy.
yeah, he's a cowboy, whatever. In skinny jeans. The Just because you wear a big belt buckle doesn't mean that you're a cowboy, but the 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 it so Marina Shafir, she's again at the end of it, she's still a woman, right? The
And not a big woman. She's about
not
five
big,
foot,
yeah,
six,
yeah,
140 pounds. That's not a, this
yeah,
isn't China. This isn't Nia Jackson.
yep,
Even then, they were,
yep, and even
it was
still
a
has
different
still
era. I
does.
mean, as we said, you're trying to sell the families. How do you
Hmm.
sell this when, oh yeah, we're not doing violence anymore with women. We're not doing intergender. No, we're just gonna have a hero clothesline the crap out of her.
Hmm. So like he doesn't push her. She's not. It's not like she ran in the way, and she accidentally eats the super kick. Like, it's not like she pulled a Sherry. You know what I mean? Like where Sherry and Luna would throw themselves in danger. So there was a reason that they ate the move. He had to go outside the ring, set himself up for his stupid move, jump in, do the little fruity flip, and then hit her with a clothesline. You had to do a whole lot of setup for what? One, he could have just clotheslined her. So now it's like so you do it with all the unnecessary pomp and circumstance, and you leave yourself wondering, why am I supposed to cheer for this guy? And then you go and then you stop and go, well, if you wanted to do that, why didn't he just clothesline her? Why didn't he just do XYZ? So like you just leave everybody kind of going, this guy looks like a fool slash this guy looks like a pussy because he attacked a woman, and then you got to go, why didn't he just do X? So like you start when you really stop and take 2 seconds, which is what people do, that even subconsciously you start picking this part and going, why did this even just happen? And then he's supposed to be the hero. I know AEW likes to pretend that people want this morally ambiguous Game of Thrones bullshit, but they don't. But they don't. Wrestling fans want clearly defined good v evil storytelling. Um, so it's so all right, bro. Like, you haven't really beat anybody in a while. And you chose to beat up this woman, and although she's been a pain in the ass and she's caused people matches, she hasn't really done any super duper physicality that would warrant her. eating this stupid that Warner eating the stupid move that Logan Paul does better. Like, there's a thousand different things that could have been done to do this and get this over. And they chose the laziest, the laziest, most ineffective way to go about it. And to me, all it did was really make Hangman look weak.
Well, speaking of week, it's our final segment for AEW. Then we're gonna move on because I know you're getting just annoyed. That's right, the new shirt from shopaew.com. MJF has a tiny pickle.
Who is the asshole working there, working
It's
their
not the Young
their
Buck's
graphic
wife
design?
anymore. That's the good news. It's somebody worse.
But that means someone else is getting paid to make these shitty shirts. Someone's getting paid a lot of money to make these shitty shirts, and gets told that they're doing a good job. What? What?
I'm just trying to think who would wear this. That that you want
No
to wear.
one.
Not that you're getting paid to wear. Not that you've been
Yep.
you got drunk and then you were tricked into a dare and you're wearing it, or not because somebody took all your clothes and it's either this or you walk home naked.
Yeah. This is not a Dusty sucks eggs shirt. Breaking away. What man goes? What man, especially a younger man, is going to put on a shirt that says another dude has a little dick? I don't. You know. Really would when probably you probably could have gotten away with the shirt just simply saying kosher pickle. Maybe. Right? Like it's because at least it turns into when it turns to a wrestling inside joke, you're okay. Like it's okay. But it's like you just I can't, this okay, well I said it during the pro show. This is where KSAs matter. Not knowledge, skills, and ability, they matter. You don't just hire people because they're your friends or because you needed to fill a DEI checkbox. This is why you spend money on an actual marketing department, on an actual sales department, on an actual graphic artist. The Because if they did, they wouldn't be getting shit like this. And that there is not a single piece of AEW merchandise that is remotely memorable or wearable. It's why the logo is the only thing that sells. And it's not a cool brand. So how long before the stupid logo shirt stops selling?
So,
This is the antithesis of the ECW guerrilla marketing.
so the person who's in charge of this, I guess, is Jacob C. Paul, who, according to his, he's worked on designs for Disney, Pepsi, Pixar, Star Wars, Pokemon.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, I don't
okay.
understand how he
I,
would let. Was he
prove it.
drunk? Was he like tied up in the back and did somebody play with him? I mean, what was he like? You know,
Yeah. Was it?
tortured and going, yes, yeah, I'm proving this. Like anybody who like with I guess even half a brain would have looked at this. Went, oh my god, just no, no, burn this design, burn
Yeah.
it. Don't let even. Ah, and poor Mark Briscoe is just looking like an idiot. I mean,
Well,
this is character assassination on not even AEW, but Mark Briscoe for this is now for this the slogan he's pitched. Like this is bad.
was it? Listen,
I have to laugh.
he
I'm
cut a
like I can't
promo.
think of anybody else to be this stupid to put this thing. It's like AEW found out we're gonna do it. This is a
Well,
great idea.
well, because they're so devoid of anything that vaguely resembles success that when you get something that gets a genuine laugh, when they got a line that hit right. I don't blame them for attempting to do something with the line. It hit. It's just you need to have people in place who know how to make the most of the line. And this is just not it. This isn't it. And listen, I have missed the last 2 weeks of AEW. Why is MJF not with the Hurt Syndicate? Why is he feuding with Briscoe? What happened?
Oh, it's not because he's for the number one contendership for that sort of battle royal, the one where you have a gauntlet match. I guess that's not why they're feuding, so that MJF can have a number one spot. That's right. Uh, Kevin, you're gonna get pissed. So, and I know because like, wait a minute, that makes sense. Why would somebody want to be the number one person in a gauntlet match? Logic and AEW, just like the shirt went out the window years ago.
I know. Well, they just do shit for the sake of. They suffer from "wouldn't it be cool if," and like no. And anytime, 9 times out of 10, when someone says "wouldn't it be cool if," the answer is probably no. The answer is probably no, unless you shop it, unless you take the time to really workshop it. 9 times out of 10, it's no. It's a no. This isn't no. It actually isn't cool. And there's anybody in that company that I would say that's going to give you at least the one time. So for them, it's a 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 times someone says, "Wouldn't it be cool if?" Now the answer is no. The answer is no because none of you have the brain capacity for it. The I mean, is it really any real wonder that whatever they were attempting to do with Shane McMahon, it fell apart?
No, because I bet you there was a look on Shane's face when he saw Tony and just Tony's going on, and Shane realized, I can't unless I get total control. I'm not, this thing is gonna sink like a stone.
Hmm.
And yes, this shirt is proven they'll sink like a stone. But
They all just it's stuff. I mean, I'm thinking like 1,000 different things to do. Where you could have just had you could have had a jar of pickles with MJF's fish on the face on the label. Like remember the old, what was it? Like you could just like the old Big Johnson t-shirts from the 90s
I
and just
remember, yeah, but that was cool at least because he was like, innuendo, and you're like,
it's yep. Like
ah.
you could have gone with those and taken it in the opposite direction and just and done like tiny pickle shirts. But instead they chose to spoon feed you the joke like you're dumb, but it's a dumb joke to begin with. Like it just goes to show you like it's the ineptitude, man. It's the ineptitude from top to bottom. Every aspect of this company is weak. And it's weak. It's laughable, and frankly, it's unprofessional. There is a high school kid right now who's had a better idea for a t-shirt. Telling some joke that's only funny to him and his friends. And they're going to go on their computer, they're going to go on their Canva account, and they're going to make something way more entertaining, and then they're going to go to Walmart and press it onto a bullshit shirt, and run around their high school in it for a couple weeks until he gets tired of the joke. Then this bullshit.
We're gonna go into some better stuff because I can tell you two of us are gonna get pissed. So
Mm.
TNA Slammiversary, it's Trick Williams versus Joe Hendry. Now Mike Santana has been added in. I give credit to TNA for this because this could have gone sideways right off the bat. I mean, you have
Mhm.
a NXT kid holding the title. You still have Joe Hendry around, so you can't just dump him somewhere. And yet you're trying to get Mike Santana as the man. And if you just did Santana versus Hendry for the title, that would have been just a crapshoot. So, your thoughts? Is this, did they do the right thing? Could they have done it better? What would you have done in terms of the world title picture?
You know, I've always been a firm believer in if you're gonna do a triple threat, very very similar to the Heyman mentality, right? If you're gonna do a triple threat for the title, then the third person should be someone who's never been in the main event picture, and you should really do it in a way where they either get up, they're either out first, or they win, right? But they no one really does the elimination ones. So the only thing I'm looking at this, I'm going is whoever wins. I hope that the winner pins Trick. So the message isn't that a TNA guy is incapable of beating the NXT guy. The because I think it's going to be important to so you don't like so a TNA guy can be a TNA guy, but a TNA guy can't be an NXT guy. That's the message that this partnership needs to avoid. They've done a decent job of putting that out there, but now this is for all the marbles on a TNA show for the TNA title. So now more than ever, Joe Hendry or Santana needs to be pinning Trick. The feud has done a decent job of showing us a different side of Joe Hendry. You know, he isn't. Yeah, there have been points in time during the feud where he wasn't the happy-go-lucky, smiley guy posing. You know, he has shown frustration. You know, he's shown disappointment. And now he's shown he's shown a little bit of grit. He's shown a little bit of grit, so there's a little extra dimension to the character. I think we talked about this briefly. It's something that a lot of baby faces, because again, being a baby face is not easy. But a lot of baby faces struggle with once they get over and their character leans in a certain direction. You have to be able to show a different dimension. And one of the things that makes John Cena the GOAT is that John Cena was the super smiley white meat baby face, but the moment you pissed him off, he furrowed his brow and he threw hellfire and vengeance at you. He went Super Cena. There was a transformation. He got pissed, people got beat up. And then when it was done, he calmed it down and went back to being a happy smiley guy. Not a lot of baby faces can do that convincingly. The promo that Joe Hendry did last week, I thought it was a very good impassioned promo. The rise of Mike Santana has been very cool, right? It's not always easy for a tag guy to go singles and transform himself. The cool thing about Santana is he's real, he's relatable. So the question is, well, what does TNA do? Do you go back to the people's chosen champion and Joe Henry, or do you say, all right, Mike, this is your chance to shine, kid. We need to do something new. Let's go new. Um, so to me to me that's where the important thing is. Or do you go, okay, we can get another match out of this and let Trick slide, right? Because I don't know, um I, I know people, to me Slammiversary has always been like their WrestleMania. I know people like to say it's the what's the other one?
Bound for Glory.
Yeah, Bound for Glory. But I think Slammiversary is their WrestleMania. The So this is the biggest show of the year. Um, so you either got to do something really super bold, with the finish, and drag the story out, or you got to finish the story and just choose which direction you're going to go into. But I think the setup to this has been excellent. They've done a good job. The only thing that sucks is TNA just needs eyes on it. TNA. I've said this for a very long time. When you break down TNA versus AEW, TNA has been the better show for the last 3 years. And since their partnership with the WWE, the quality of the show has exploded and it's been exponentially. They just need to be in a situation where they can get more eyes on the product. That to me, that's the crime of it all. It's just they just don't have enough eyes on the product to really to really drive it over the finish line and put it firmly in the number two slot, where it belongs. They just need more exposure. But like they're filling arenas, like the groundswell. The groundswell enthusiasm and momentum is there. Clearly, TNA is doing something right. So it's personally, I hope they put it on Santana. I would like to see them go in a fresh direction. And again, Santana is very real. He's got a story that appeals to people. You want to root for him. I think the Joe Hendry thing was fun. He got to tell a nice, fun story. But his time in TNA. that his time in TNA, it's a running down clock. So do you like one or two other little feuds with him and let him go transition over to WWE, because we all know that's where he's going to wind up anyway. They got Santana there. Let's start pushing towards kind of a boldish new future, and let's see what we get out of it. Because TNA, especially in the men's side, has really done a decent job of trying to keep their main event title picture fresh. You don't really stay like they're really good about not being stagnant. So let's keep it going. It's you got new eyes. You got new eyes in the product. Give Santana his due. Let's see how it goes, and then let's see where we go from here. But it was interesting. They did a great job with the Trick heel turn. I believe that Trick has done a good job of not denigrating, but being a piece of crap about being the NXT guy coming over. And again, he's got great chemistry with Joe Hendry. And again, they did a good job of pulling different a different side of Joe Hendry out of the character. But I say just go big. When you go home, go big. Let's put this on Santana, and chart a new future.
So here's, I guess, the question everybody talks to me about when I talk TNA, and that is this partnership good? Because on one hand, it's like, okay, I guess when people thought, it was going to happen, and hey, when we first thought we were going to get, I would say, this partnership, people were like, oh, eventually when we'll get, hey, we'll get a New Day coming by. And guess what? Drew McIntyre, he's teased he's going to come by. And oh my God, we might get, Chelsea Green and even Bailey coming by. And it's been mostly just kids, which is not bad. It's just, it is what it is. And that is, sort of the way this is. I mean, I think you sort of had to know, like, hey, this was going to be always going to be an NXT WWE partnership. Has it been good, or is it still a little more to one side of for NXT because they get to get anybody they want, and you're still getting kids for TNA. You're not getting the big name. You're not getting a main guy. You're still getting just a lot of kids who you're still not
Mhm.
sure who the hell they are in terms of a grand scheme of things.
TNA's still winning. TNA's still winning because at the end of the day, before this, the TNA had the problem that it's had since it left Spike TV. Nobody knows where the hell it is. No one knows where the hell to find it. So they're popping up on the CW, and a hell of a lot of people are watching the show, are watching NXT on the CW. And the CW is willing to share the metrics from their app. So like we know a lot of people just are watching NXT. The show has actually been referred to as a legitimate game changer, by the CW president. So an entertainment guy talking to other entertainment people referred to the show as a game changer. That means that the show is immensely successful. This wasn't a wrestling guy talking to wrestling people, trying to toot his own horn. This was an industry expert talking to people in his industry. So that means that NXT has a lot more penetration than what we probably understand or acknowledge on our end. So by proxy, TNA is getting a lot more exposure than it probably has in the better part of what 15, 16 years. They're winning. More people know what TNA is. TNA's gotten tremendous rubs, between the Rumble and WrestleMania. Their guys have come out. They haven't been treated like crap. They've been referred to in reverence. On the other side of it is that we've been able to address former TNA champions on Raw and SmackDown, and their reign as champion has been treated with respect. Michael Cole putting over Drew McIntyre and AJ Styles as former TNA champions. It was done with, it was done with reverence. So TNA has gotten a lot of shine, a lot of luster put back on the brand's name. So it's the only thing that's gonna matter is I tell you, the real test of the matter is who, how does Trick Williams lose the TNA title? So that's why I'm saying it's very important. And maybe I'm putting too much emphasis on it, but to me, I think as a fan, it is important that a TNA guy pin Trick, not a TNA guy pinning a TNA guy. Trick has to be beaten. And that'll really kind of, to me, that'll really indicate um if this long-term partnership is super viable. A regular Raw guy is not going to pop up on TNA TV until TNA has some kind of until TNA has some kind of mainstream audience that it can communicate to, because WWE's going. We can have TNA guys interact with our guys on YouTube and YouTube and Instagram and get more views than that show could ever possibly get, right? Like the Drew the McIntyre Joe Hendry picture from Mania weekend got more views on Instagram than TNA can get viewers in 3 months. So that's why we haven't seen Bailey or the New Day pop up on Impact yet. I get it. I get it. Right now, the energy should be with with NXT, um, because one, the age of the rosters is more complementary. It's a lot of people kind of in the same boat, and we've talked about it before too. With fewer house shows and no territories, the the NXT kids, you learn by being on the road. You learn by doing. And right now, with no house shows, or with super limited house show touring, and TNA not being really being NXT not being on the road, you have to have these partnerships. You have to get the kids out there because they need to go out there and apply their craft in front of different audiences with different tastes, and in an unsanitary environment. So that again, that's why you see these. That's why you start seeing these weird little partnerships popping up, and guys, like again, Omos hanging out in Japan. Guys going to be going down to AAA soon. The NXT kids having decent matches and decent feuds on TNA and losing on TNA. Again, this isn't like when they were with AEW, where the AEW guys ran wild, and Tony was able to talk shit, and no one could respond to Tony, and not a single TNA guy got over on an AEW guy. It took former world champion Christian, who's currently under AEW contract, to get the TNA title off of Kenny Omega. This isn't that situation. This has been a partnership where you've seen wins and losses and things like that matter. But again, in order for it to really kind of, I think in order for it to really truly be certified as a good thing, I think it's really important that Santana or Joe Hendry pin Trick Williams. Other than that, it is what it is, man. Again, it's as the kids say, everybody's eating pretty good right now.
The most, I guess, controversial TNA wrestler
Hmm.
on the planet, and I was talking to BQ about this, is AJ Francis.
Hmm.
You either love him or you really hate him.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this about AJ Francis. In a perfect world, he would get a TNA title run.
Yeah.
He is a big monster of a man. He knows how to talk. He's funny as hell. How tough is it though when TNA fans are starting to come around, but they and a lot like WWE fans will look at him and go, "Oh, it's flop dollar, baby. Oh yeah, the guy who died and nearly killed himself." I mean, can you ever get away from a stink of that flop dollar, top dollar on NXT if you're AJ Francis?
I think he has. I think he has. AJ Francis has gone out and shown everybody that he can entertain. He got better, and listen, shit happens. And at the end of the day, when you know the whole story where there was medically something wrong with him, it's kind of like thank God that happened because he probably would have been in a very different state If that botch didn't happen, the but again, this is the importance of having other promotions, right? He got into the WB. He was in NXT during a weird time of NXT. The Vince Triple H power struggle, the realignment, the getting pulled up to SmackDown during the pandemic, and blah 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 blah. Like his journey probably wasn't what it should have been in the WWE, but you can say that for a lot of people. He gets kicked out, and he chooses to kind of reinvent himself, and I think in terms of character growth and development, dude, he's done banger work on TNA. He just really has. He has shown that he has the chops to entertain, and he's only going to get better. And again, I say this a billion times, age is not the factor that people want to continue to pretend that it is in wrestling in this era of wrestling. It is all about how you can condition and tone your body and keep yourself healthy. If you can keep yourself healthy and injury free, age is nothing but a number. This guy has the opportunity to continue to remove the stink of that botch off of him. The fact that he kind of leaned into it and embraced it during the Joe Hendry feud helped make it sting a little bit less. And again, as long as he continues to improve on his promos, and again, listen, you don't have to be a good wrestler to be a successful wrestler. You just have to be a serviceable wrestler. That is the end all be all of it. Lex Luger is one of my favorite wrestlers on the planet. Lex spent the vast majority of his time being physically impressive, physically dominant. Had a physique that was unmatched. But he wasn't a terrific wrestler. Not until later in his career when he became a great worker. He was serviceable. That's all you need to do is be serviceable. You just got to be able to do the basics and do the basics well, and focus on being an entertainer. And AJ Francis, man, he's got the important things down. He's got the important things down. And you got to be able to cut a promo. You got to be able to tell me why I need to hate you or why I need to like you, and I need to do it convincingly. I think that at this point, I would say the aesthetics are the next thing he needs to work on. If he gets in slightly better shape, if he gets in slightly better shape and can change his gear, then it changes his image and it's off to the races. Because again, it's first and foremost, it is an aesthetic business first. It's an aesthetic business first. So, if you're gonna look a certain kind of way, then you need to have certain other attributes.
You say the aesthetic. How much does it? How much does it hurt that it's almost like we're dominated now in an era of small wrestlers? Like, hey, people love the workers. They love these guys who do flips and kicks and all this stuff here because it's cool. Hey, this guy did a
Mhm.
moonsault, and you see bigger guys try to do that. I get it. In a
Yeah.
perfect world, every big guy like identifies as more like Obafemi. Hey, it's just power. It's meat slapping meat, as they say. I'm gonna just
Hmm.
beat the hell out of you. AJ, it seems it's nowhere near as bad as Brian Cage, who I love, but as you said, Brian Cage thinks he's a cruiserweight. There are times you look at AJ, like, why do you need to go top rope? Why do you need to do this? You are a 6'8",
Hmm.
300-pound ex NFL player. You could just maul people, and that's all you need to do. People can get up for that. Does he suffer because, like everybody else who discovers new toys, like, hey, I want to do this. I want to do
Yeah.
the flip. I want to do the flips. I want to do the top rope dives and all that. It's like, ooh, no, it's a bad idea. You're a big monster. Monsters should not be cruiserweights.
No, monster should never be cruiserweights, and you put yourself at risk of injury because 300 pounds falling through the air is still 300 pounds falling through the air, and it doesn't matter how many guys there are to catch you. That shit sucks. So but no, yeah, I get it. Part of it is just some of it's the maturing thing. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. Um, the so yeah, I just think, dude, get your arms a little bit bigger, get your chest a little more defined, then you're good to go. Don't worry about the jumping and flipping bullshit. The Save that for when it really truly matters. When you're in a mega huge match, and it's a situation where you're pulling out all the stops. Right? Undertaker did not do the top rope thing every single match. He saved it for big pay-per-views. It's just that when you're the Undertaker, you're in so many big matches that you do it more often. You do it more times than you're not going to. But you don't need to do the over the top rope bullshit. The and also too, there aren't too many people who are going to be able to handle safely catching just someone that big. The so just save it. Save it for for a moment where it's going to matter the most. But again, I'll tell you right, he's getting there though. And he's getting there. I think again, he's a heck of an entertainer, man. When he comes out and he does this thing, I pop for it. It's highly entertaining. It's highly entertaining, and it's some of the more memorable things that happen in the episode of Impact. So the everything says he's going in the right direction.
Going forward, TNA. I mean, the last couple of years, I know people have complained that the heels never win, and I get it. You always want the baby faces to go over. The baby faces have to win the feud because everybody wants to send home people happy. Do you have do you should is Hunter Johnson, aka Delirious, is he the guy to hopefully change this? Where no, the heel's going to get over. To make a big heel, you have to beat up the baby faces and win the feud. I know it stinks. I know nobody likes to have bad news, but for TNA to be successful, how big is it that they edit the booking so it's not just, oh yeah, baby faces will always eventually go over and everything's wonderful. We do a song and dance, and the heels always just never really get momentum.
Well, I mean, it depends. It depends on the story that you're telling, right? Listen, heels lose. That is their purpose in life. You're a bad guy, you're going to lose. You always lose eventually. The difference is what is the storytelling mechanism that makes the win matter or not matter when it needs to, right? Because Flair lost often. Flair lost often, but the difference is that when Flair lost, he came out the next day and he no-sold it. He gaslit the audience. He gaslit the audience, and which drove them even more crazy. The the only time Flair won was uh, was in a title match that needed, and the story was transitioning onto someone else. That's really the only time Flair won, and it came at the expense of a whole lot of bullshit. You know, Arn, Tully, Ole, JJ, or Barry. It's everybody ran in. There was some kind of mass confusion, or the babyface got screwed by someone else altogether, and Flair still had to put his feet up on the rope, the and skirted out and barely survived. But other than that, Flair got his ass whooped all the time. It's the only time you've really seen an era where where the heel won over all the time was that weird era of Raw with Evolution Triple H, where he was just
We could
going over
also argue that
Shogun Armstrong. Like
Roman
it was
Reigns and the
ridiculous.
Bloodline always went over because you had to build the monster. You had
Was
to
it? Well, that's a different storytelling mechanism, right? Like it's Roman was on a tremendous run, and and the and the bloodline, like looks at the end of the day. By the time we got to it, more people were cheering for Roman than they were booing him. It was just a sight to see. And again, it's a once in a lifetime thing. Same thing with Brock, right? Like Brock was heel, but half the time Brock came out, people were cheering for Brock. It was just a matter of who it was that you were hoping to see beat him. The It just depends. Like I don't think TNA is there yet. They don't have a heel that is either physically dominant enough where
Moose.
they go well. But Moose is but you've already been there, done that with Moose. Like how many times can you have Moose be champion? The other than the fact that I think Moose has had too many concussions, I think it's really the only reason Moose isn't in the WWE at this point right now. The you know the But Moose is kind of in a different space too. Like you need Moose is Moose is a king who has the ability to be a kingmaker. Um, but Moose needs baby faces that can challenge him. I don't really know what baby face you have in TNA now where they can be a viable a viable challenge to Moose, other than every once in a blue moon he slips in a banana peel. Um, but like who's the baby face who defeats Moose? You know, so Moose right now gets to kind of carry on and do what he wants to do. Like you and I get what I'm saying is a little contradictory to the point that we're trying to make, but like right now, TNA is kind of in a spot where the roster has like it is in a weird state of equilibrium, right? Like where you kind of had to bring in Trick because you didn't have a heel who was big enough to be a menace for Joe Hendry or whoever the new babyface champion is going to be. I mean, right now you don't have a babyface who's big enough to pull a heel up to rise to the occasion. The so yes, kind of what you're saying is true. Yes, they do need to find a way to get a little steam on the heels they have and let them run wild for a little bit. But you don't have someone on either side who's trending in a direction where you're going to have that opportunity. Which is why I think that they should move on and put the belt on Santana. Because sometimes new baby face energy, you get to create a heel. You get to create a heel who can function and you know fill the you know nature abhors a vacuum. So TNA seems to keep moving things around to figure out how do we plug that hole? How do we plug that hole and get momentum on someone who can take everybody to the next level? You know, is that could it potentially be an AJ Francis? Sure. But is it AJ Francis at the moment? Maybe not. Um, but they TNA has enough equity with the fans where now they can start to experiment. You know, and that's a cool play. That's a cool place to be. You can start trying new things, and generally, when you start trying new things, is where you figure out is where you figure out how to make the formula work. So is it a matter of you got to bring in some new people to bring in some to breathe in some life, or bring back someone who hasn't been around for a while? You know, could you know is the you know is it you know is it as simple as hey let's dust off James Storm, and at this point in his career he's in a different space, he's in a different mindset, and he can go give you know, he can go give someone a baby face or a heel the run of their lives where they get elevated. It's you know TNA has a lot more going for it where I don't think they need to be super duper worried about um finding that mega heel. Finding the mega heel at the moment because you gotta kind of let that cook and find itself.
Final question on TNA before we move on. And right now, their card it's a good. They have probably one of their better cards lined up right now for Slammiversary. We'll go more into it next week. But you know, Trick Williams, Joe Hendry, Mike Santana for three-way match for TNA World Championship. You get Moose versus Leon Slater, Mustafa Ali versus Cedric Alexander. You get Teresa Blanchard versus Indy Hartwell. The Inspiration versus the Elegance brand for the TNA Knockouts World Title Championship. Masa Slamovich versus either JC Jane or Jordan Grace for the NXT Championship. We'll find out after the Great American Bash. And the Nimitz versus the Hardys versus the Rascals versus First Class, which is AJ Francis, KC Navarro.
Hmm.
Yeah, as I said, great card.
It's a great card, like
It's a
exciting
lot of
card.
WWE guys, and that's always been sort of the worry of TNA people. Like, oh, every time you bring a WWE guy in, TNA originals like Steve Macklin, like the Rascals, like Ace Austin get pushed down. And I get it's you and I have talked about how it's tough to put a guy who's under 6 feet, under 200 pounds as the face of your company. There's a shelf life to guys that small, unless you're Rey Mysterio Jr. And even then, he's the one in a million. if you're TNA, what do you do? I mean, because it's great you're getting this, but it almost feels like, well, you're just WWE 2.0.
Now they're not. They're the problem with TNA is when they tried to be years ago when they during the Hogan era where they tried to become 2.0. If you want to be successful, you have to try to emulate the WWE formula. There is no doubt about that. If you're not trying to emulate WWE's production and presentation, then you're not to be taken seriously. It just is what it is. It just is what it is. The WWE reinvented the wheel. They reinvented the wheel, and it's just you can't take that away from them. Vince had the insight and the foresight to go, no, there's a better way to do this. And as much as people have tried, they have not found a better way to do it than the way Vince has done it. You just got to kind of accept it. The now you can't punish a talent for coming along and being a guy who was in the WWE. Like both Hardys have been in TNA long enough that they're fine. They cut their teeth in WWE, but Jeff did more. Jeff had bigger, massive moments in TNA. Um, and then went back and became a champion. But like, Jeff and Matt have done enough in TNA that when you pull up the TNA library, there's giant chunks of both Hardys, especially for Jeff. Especially for Jeff. The Nick Nemeth has you know Nick Nemeth has done enough in TNA where you can stop thinking about him as Dolph Ziggler. You just got to kind of get over it. Same thing with AJ Francis. AJ Francis has proven himself. He's the AJ Francis has done more as AJ Francis as than he did as than he's done as Top Dollar. It is what it is. It is what it is. Um, do I oh God, with who were we just talking about? Um,
Like we're talking about Venemis, the
no, no, no,
Hardys.
no, no. He just got released. You just said it. You said his name.
Oh, Cedric Alexander.
No, no, that's Cedric. No, no, no. The from TNA. He just left TNA.
Oh, Ace Austin.
Thank you, Ace Austin. Dude, I remember when Ace Austin was running around the New Jersey Indies, and I was begging. Because I wasn't, I was just giving advice on the booking, but I say do something with this kid. There's something there. There's something there, and Ace Austin had a good TNA run, but you do hit a ceiling sometimes with someone creatively, and they do need to go away for a little bit and come back and be refreshed or Ace Austin is someone who will be back. He has a bright future. He just has got to repackage himself a little bit. Before he was running around doing a thing with the cards because Gambit was his favorite comic book character. I was like, cool, I get it, brother. Like, no one has really kind of done the Gambit thing yet, but you got to figure out how to translate that to TV. And he did a decent job of figuring that out, and he had a hell of a run. But you don't like you're not taking him off the TV and cooling him down because a WWE guy came in. It's not. I think the IWC just doesn't really understand. It's like, well, timing is everything. Timing is everything, and sometimes you do just kind of run out of things for a guy to do. But a kid like Ace Austin, man, he's got a lot of talent. He's gonna wind up back there at some point in time. It's just a matter of, hey, we don't have a mechanism for it to work right now. Um, the so like again, why using there's a lot of WWE guys. I mean I don't I you can't hold someone's past against them.
It's not only in their past, but like as BQ has pointed out, the Hardys don't job unless it's to a Moose or
Hmm.
the Nemesis. And I get it, they shouldn't job to just everybody,
And nor should they.
but if you're trying to get, like Rascals over, if you're trying to get Ace Austin over, I mean, how much does it hurt when it's like, well, if you were bringing these guys, they're getting a push. Like the Hardys are going to get a big push when you bring them in, and I
Hmm.
get it. it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. You need the hardest because they draw money, but at the same time, when do you elevate? W has sort of a similar problem. Like, when do you elevate the Braun Breakers when all these guys are sort of there and you can
Awesome.
never get rid
Yeah.
of.
Dude, I don't think you can do much more for Braun Breaker than what Braun's got right now. Braun has been there for he hasn't even been there to finish his first cup of coffee yet. But the kid is all but a certified is going to be he's been certified as a future main eventer. That kid is going to be main eventing at WrestleMania. Now it's just now he's just in the shut up and learn phase of his inevitable main event run. Remember, Batista didn't speak for almost 3 years before we started letting Batista talk. And then someone said, "Oh wait, Batista hasn't had a title yet," and they threw the tag titles at him and Flair. Um, Braun Breaker is on a very similar trajectory right now. The kid has had the IC title. He said he's had great, fantastic moments.
True, it might have been, but that's the point, though. It's like,
Mhm.
when do you get the bigger like, should when should TNA have said, "Hey, look, we're putting a title on Ace Austin. He is money. We can make it work. I don't know how we can make it work, but we can make it work." Or Steve Macklin.
Oh,
When should like, how tough is that when you
mhm.
all of a sudden sign a Cedric Alexander, a Nick Nemeth, and Mustafa Ali, because hey, they're coming here because TNA is promising them, "Hey, we'll get you a title run eventually." Well, you have more creativity than if you go to AEW and you get basically the catering of a month. We will allow you to be you, but they get sort of pushed up in the food chain quicker.
I, I guess and this isn't a knock on Ace Austin. What you have to do as a talent is you have to look at yourself and go, okay, how do I get myself to the level of these guys? Right? Because Ace Austin did a lot of good work. But again, his momentum as a tag wrestler, versus as a singles wrestler, they were two very different creatures, and it was a terrible, unfortunate accident that derailed the push as a tag team. The As a singles wrestler, he's kind of it's a different he's in a different bucket. He's in a different bucket, and although he has the potential to eventually ascend to Mustafa Ali, he's not Mustafa Ali level. And there's a difference between being able to go out there and have a good match with Mustafa Ali and being on the same level as Mustafa Ali. The harder part is how does TNA get how does TNA create the opportunity for an Ace Austin to elevate himself versus having him on the roster with those guys and someone saying, "Hey, well, why aren't you doing XYZ with him?" Because the reality of it is that it's more important for TNA to leverage their Mustafa Ali's right away, and to leverage their Hardys right away, to leverage their Nick Nemeth and by proxy his brother right away. Um, than it is to find something to do with Ace Austin. I think right now, especially with the way the indies are, why did TNA let Ace Austin go? Because right now, there's more of an opportunity for Ace Austin out in the wild to make a bigger name for himself than it is for TNA to create the opportunity for him. Also, Ace Austin is someone who can probably at this point make a case for you pick him up and you put him on NXT, and now you put him through the WWE machine. The but it's again timing is everything. It's just the timing wasn't there for Ace Austin for TNA to really be able to take the time to elevate him. Listen, Ace Austin is in the same spot that Mike Santana was a few years ago. When you really break it down and you think about it, the the if LAX had split up, and not gone to AEW, Mike Santana would have been lost in the shuffle. LAX, you know, rather, or they get the AEW, and they're not doing shit with either one of them. And a decision had to get made. And the decision was, I'm gonna go bet on myself, and I'm gonna go drop out of this company. I'm gonna go grind it out in the indies, figured out how to represent my character, and I'm gonna go back to TNA. And look what happened. And he recontextualized himself as a performer, and had a couple of banger matches, and seized on some really important promos, and now he's a main eventer, and now he's a guy who can be a main eventer, is a serious world title contender. I think what a lot of people need to understand is, as a performer, it is your responsibility to find a way to keep yourself viable. And if it isn't working for you, you need to have the balls to say, "Hey, I gotta leave because I think if I go over here, I can figure this out. And if I can figure this out, the only thing I need for you to do is, once I have figured it out, I think I figured it out, I need you to promise to give me the opportunity if I can come back and do it." The Not everybody's like the WWE in the sense that they punish you for getting over without them, right? There's a reason why Matt Cardona has not been back on WWE TV, and it's because they just do a weird thing where you get punished for getting over without the permission. But TNA is not like that. If Ace Austin go out there and be really smart about where he takes his bookings, and is smart about how he presents himself as a character, and evolves, he'll be back in TNA, and he'll find a way to and he'll find a way to shine. Cream always rises to the top. It's just a matter of the journey. Unfortunately, unless you are a 6 foot plus jacked up mega monster with charisma dropping out of your butt, um, you gotta spend some time in the diamond mine, and get scuffed up and get dirty, before your value it is undeniable. It's, again, it's an aesthetic business, so yeah, the big larger than life Herculoid is going to get attention first. But if you are good, and you are a credit to your craft, and you learn how to entertain, you're gonna get your moment to shine. It just is what it is. That's why I tend to reject the notion of, you look at a card like what they've got for Slammiversary, and that's an awesome wrestling card just in general. I can't begrudge the fact that you have an awesome card at the expense of, well, guys who were here before didn't have who aren't on this card. Wrestling is a meritocracy. Wrestling is at its best when it is a meritocracy. You earn the ability to get on the bigger shows. You earn the ability to go stand in the bright lights. Nothing gets handed to you. And when it is handed to you, people see it and they reject it. Eric Watts, sure, Eric Watts was a hell of an athlete, but he wasn't a great wrestler. And it doesn't matter what kind of shine they tried to put on him, they rejected it. They rejected it, and instead of going someplace else, and grinding out earning it, he chose to walk away from it. And that's not the only example. That's not the only example I can think of in modern times. If you do not earn it and it is handed to you, eventually it just it's there are no participation trophies. If you get handed a participation trophy, that participation trophy is eventually going to turn into a noose.
Well, we go to the fourth company. That is the NWA.
They're trying.
They're trying.
They're really the,
They
the
have some
they're,
good
they're
parts.
really the point five. They're the 3.5 company.
Here's the good part. They have a very damn good women's division for
Mm-hmm.
young kids.
Mm-hmm.
Kylie and Kenzie Page, they, to me, you could put them in NXT, TNA, AEW. They could swim with sharks. They are that
Mm-hmm.
good. They understand character work.
Yep.
Same with Tiffany Nieves. Thomas Latimer looks the part in terms
Yep.
of the physical size.
Phenomenal champion. Phenomenal champion. Just needs exposure.
Brian Idol understands
Hmm.
how to promote, how to work. They have some, I'd say, good pieces.
Hmm.
There's something missing, and how much of it is, and I hate saying this because I give he's a whole different, ball of wax than Tony. But look, the Smashing Pumpkins, I keep his name escapes me here. The head of the Smashing, Billy Corgan.
Billy Corgan.
Is he too much like Tony in that there's too many people you look into, they shouldn't be running an NWA.
I th
He needs to be more of an a-hole boss and go, I'm crack the whip and go, no, we can't have just, boys be boys. We got to have, actual real people running things.
no, I think the difference is Billy needs a better number two. The loss of a Dave Lagana hurt the NWA. It hurt the NWA because Dave was a WWE guy who understood the sports entertainment portion of it. That's kind of where they have languished since they lost Lagana. Billy, unlike Tony, is a competent businessman who understands the ebbs and flows of making money. What I believe hurts Billy is Billy suffers from and it happens to a lot of people. Billy suffers from being a fan of being a fan from a certain era in wrestling. Billy is a pre 80s boom wrestling fan. He's a 70s wrestling fan. He likes that 70s style Georgia Championship Wrestling booking. And he likes the no frills, big meaty men throwing meat kind of style. Um and he's got good instincts with terms of like what looks good on TV. Because listen, size matters when you're looking at TV. Pretty matters when you're looking at women, and yeah, if you're going to be a champion, you should be aesthetically pleasing. The but the NWA is suffering from 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 a lack of pomp and circumstance that you just need to kind of that you need to kind of break through. And he needs a person that's going to know that's not a good decision. The worst thing that happens to the NWA was going to that dumb fight app and putting themselves behind a pay window when they had all the goodwill in the world, when they were on YouTube for free weekly. They put themselves behind the pay window when coming out of the pandemic, and they lost a bunch of momentum, and it took eyes off of the product. And when you took eyes off of the product, you became out of sight, out of mind, and you irritated the people who were trying to see. And then they realized they needed a YouTube presence, and they started giving you shit matches. They started giving you shit matches, shit recaps, and you weren't seeing the stars that you wanted to see. Largely in part because listen, AEW, AEW gobbled them all up, and the guys got to eat. Right, the pandemic was detrimental to the NWA kind of NWA's resurrection. But once they put this behind that pay window, you killed the goodwill, because you took away the access. People, you need the access. The access was more important. The access to the content was more important. You needed to teach the audience to want to see you. You need to teach the audience to want to see you and want to follow you. And I think that was more important than getting them to pay for you. Because if you were going to do a house show locally, people were going to go to the TV tapings. But in terms of building a larger, broader audience, we needed to get used to we needed you've got to train your audience to want to support you, right? So like you needed to train people to go to your time slot. You needed to train people to want to see your folks wrestle. You needed to give them time to get emotionally invested in what was going on. And then you needed them to want to gamble with making a financial investment to you know to strengthen their emotional investment. And he skipped steps, and they have been languishing because of it. And it's because of the lack of the strong number two that he had. And frankly, I'm sorry, we're a few years removed from this speaking out bullshit, 90% of which of it was some skank got pounded out by someone who had a significant other, and she didn't get a phone call back the next day, and she wanted to be unaccountable to her bad decision making. That was 90% of that bullshit. It's time to get over it. It's time to get over it and uncancel some people. And let people who actually know what the fuck it is they're doing come back to work, because well, what we're seeing isn't working. The indies are a fucking train wreck because every scrub who never should have been trained, half of them weren't, let their fat pig blue hair girlfriend over the guardrail and into the locker room. And all of a sudden she started having sway. Or someone pounded out some filthy rat with an OnlyFans, and all of a sudden, she's airing secrets because she isn't getting enough attention. So it's like we need to get back to the business of doing business. You need men who are going to tell you that you're a piece of shit or that you're a pussy and to get the fuck out, or that you need to go work out because you're a fat pig and it's an aesthetic business. No one wants to see your man tits and your and your love handles. If you want to be a champion, you got to look like a champion. You want to be a champion, you look like fucking Tom Latner. You need to look at Nick Aldis. The Willie Mack can look like Willie Mack because Willie Mack is special. But the dollar store a living room wrestler who shows up with some shitty gear with their belly hanging over, nah, bro, no one wants to see you. There's fucking 25 of you standing outside. I'm trying to get booked right now, and there's 40 of you in the audience. I don't need a guy who looks like a guy in the audience, and I don't care what your fat girlfriend has to say about it. We need to get away from that shit, and we'll start making money again. Billy needs a number two who's going to tell the sinister minister that fucking chopping up cocaine on a pay-per-view is not a good look. It's like that's what's kind of killed the end of that's what stifled the NWA's growth. I hope they keep punching through because it's a decent show. It's a decent show with good talent, with good young talent, and you need another outlet for a good young talent to go learn. You just do. I keep saying like the just because the WWE is doing phenomenally doesn't mean that wrestling is doing well. AEW should have been the mechanism which helped wrestling do well. AEW has been the mechanism which has kind of suppressed wrestling's ability to do well. It's shined a really bright light on the fact that the indies are a fucking train wreck filled with a bunch of idiots who don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and have entirely too much stroke. And it's kind of turned it into a joke. It's turned into a joke. Companies like the NWA, the better they do, the more respect they put on wrestling's name. So I hope that they kind of figure this shit out. Fine, we got the CW app thing, but wrestling is TV. And they need to be on TV. I don't care if it's streaming TV. They just need to be on TV. You know, and not on the fucking bullshit indie circle jerk that is the fucking fight app. I don't know why we fucking pretend this is a big deal. It's every fucking asshole and their mother with $8 in a bullshit ring, fucking flopping around, cutting the same jerk off lame promo. I fucking respect you. Stop it. Fucking embarrassing.
Get back to Billy, and I remember talking with Brian Idol about this. You want the Adventures in Carnyland. You saw too many people like Joe Galley, who's I guess a commentator and an executive operator, is basically was told Billy. There's an episode where Billy's wife is telling him he needs to do something, but Joe's like, no, I'm not gonna do it, and Billy won't get rid of him. And I get it. You're trying to get mix mainstream with wrestling. Wrestling people are carny; they don't really respect it, but again, I mean, you look at the companies you're doing well, WWE, TNA, they're run as a business. These
Hmm.
are business people. Wrestlers are not in management. You have to crack the whip because, as you said, you give these guys an inch, they'll take they'll take a mile. Does Billy suffer from that? Where it's like he doesn't want to be the bad guy and just, all right, I'm getting rid of people.
Yep.
You only can do what I say. I'm getting rid of you. Bye bye.
Yep. Listen, you got Billy needs to be less Billy Corgan, needs to be more Bill Watts. At the end of the day, Bill Watts was a businessman. Bill Watts understood it. But Bill Watts was a wrestler and a booker who had a head for business and understood the power of the athlete. The people like to talk shit about Bill Watts and say a lot of things about him. Sure, he may have had some opinions that were, that may make your butthole pucker. But at the end of the day, when your best friend, and people are more complicated than what people like to say. But sometimes you gotta be a bastard, and that's just the end all be all of it, right? It's like no one in business is really truly successful without being a prick. And if you don't have the ability to be a prick, then you got to find you someone who can do it for you. The so again, that's it. That's I think that's one of the big weaknesses right now is that Billy just is a fan of an era of wrestling that has passed you by in terms of presentation, but not it's not so gone that without some bells and whistles, it can't be great again. The But he also needs someone there who's going to actually have his back and go, I think Billy told you to get this shit done. Why isn't it done yet? No, no, I'm talking to you, not Billy. Why isn't this done yet? And once you unleash a motherfucker with a title, you'll start seeing people. You either
He's
you
now
either fall,
so.
you either fall in line or get off the line.
Is it safe to say like he could use Al Snow as his number two,
Absolutely, probably, yeah, yeah.
a guy who can literally tell people just stop effing off or else, and has the sort of a cachet going. Look, I know exactly what you guys are going through, but this is still a business. Get your ass working.
Yeah, well, or just get a operations manager in general, someone who has run something and understands the stakes of failure. They don't necessarily have to know the business because you can bring someone in from outside of the business and they'll very quickly learn respect for it. They might not understand it, but you just need them to respect it. Because at the end of the day, business is business is business is business. Operations is operations is operations is operations. If someone respects it, they will eventually they'll learn about it, and they'll grow to understand and appreciate it. But you need someone whose desire is to make sure the business stays viable first. So you need to get someone in there who goes, "Hey, this guy said jump. Why haven't you jumped yet?" And hold people accountable. Yeah, because you got to hold people accountable first. Everything else comes second. Everything else comes second. And they can grumble, fuck, he just doesn't get it. He doesn't understand why we do certain things. Well, my job is not to understand. My job is to make sure that certain things get executed. If this person gave you a directive, your job is to go out there and get this shit done. If you can't get it done, we're gonna go find someone else who can. And guess what? There are 400 motherfuckers out there who can do it. So yeah, it's the thing about not wanting to have to be friends with everybody. Sometimes you just got to get shit. You just got to get a job done. You got to get things run, and I think that's I think again that's once they can get that figured out. Once they can get that figured out, they'll be in good shape. They'll be in good shape. But yeah, it's well, they made the mistakes. They've got the wind at their back. Hopefully they get hopefully they can wind up someplace on TV, that has a feeder into like a Hulu or a Roku streaming where it's like, hey, we're on, I don't know, for lack of being able to think of something, fucking Disney XD, where like you can go to the brand's app and watch the show if you didn't watch it live, but but they get the credential of being on something that that can be taken seriously. Um, and then they do they tour a little bit more. I don't think they need to be all over the planet. Like you've got to tour in your home, and you got to be willing to kind of pop up north a little bit. The and when I say up north, I mean like and not just be in Brooklyn and Queens where you're safe to be in a smart audience. You got to be where mom is willing to drive to, because that's the success of the WWE is that they have mom on lock. That'll go wherever, but mom brings mom, the kids, and your friends.
Well, we go to the fifth organization. I call it wrong organization. We're gonna just. I apologize here, people. You want to see all this stuff, so let's just go to MLW. They've gotten better. They Shotzi Blackheart is there. They've gotten Alex Hammerstone. They have an Donovan Dijak now. Tom Pestock, aka Baron Corbin. You have
Hmm.
Contra Unit. You have this mix of CMLL guys.
Hmm.
What are they though? I mean, because they put on some good shows on YouTube, but it's stored. You look and it's like it's almost like when you go to a buffet, it's like I'm gonna get some Chinese food and I'm gonna have some American pizza and I'm gonna mix
Hmm.
it in with some barbecue and hey, maybe I'll throw in this German bratwurst. Like, what is hurting MLW when you look at it?
I mean, I don't watch much MLW. I pay attention to what they're doing online. Right now, listen, they've got access to some good talent, different talent, and good and different talent is never a bad thing. But they have the same issue that a lot of other places. They just need more exposure. They need more exposure. Um, the you know the YouTube is great. YouTube's a fantastic outlet, but the truth of the matter is YouTube is only good for or in terms of wrestling. YouTube has been structured in a way that you're not going to grow your business on it unless you are the WWE and AEW. That's because you have massive corporate partners. You know, YouTube stifles the algorithm. And part of that is because of there's just entirely too many indies and there's entirely too much shit wrestling that can get thrown up on there. But there's so much white noise that it's hard to kind of stand out, right? So MLW needs to get out there and start kind of creating viral moments. I tell you what, the WWE has set the template. The speed. I've been talking about for decades, for at least the last 50 years. But hey, it would be great if someone did a really short. You should do short job matches on Twitter. Just put up short matches on Twitter and have fun with it. Everyone's like, well, why? Because on the indies, no one wants the fucking job. But and then speed. More people watch speed than watch a month of AEW. So it's like it's for these smaller companies that have money, if they can't get TV, you've got to stop relying on YouTube, and you've got to leverage Instagram, you've got to leverage X. You've got to start using the alternative forms of media to kind of get yourself out there until you can wind up in a position where you can get the coveted TV spot that'll give you the credentials needed to say, hey, we're legit now. Especially with the loss of with with losing out on public access. It's you've got to be a little more creative with getting yourself out there. But it's they they're in a different spot where like they need to focus on the viral moment. You're going to get talked about on shows like this. You're going to get talked about on the Busted Opens, especially now that they have a higher name brand talent and people like Corbin and Shotzi and even Hammerstone. The it's just it's say that you just it's you, they just gotta get the name they gotta get the name out there. You gotta generate the awareness.
Is Matt Riddle the right guy for being a face of a company, though? That's because you look at TNA and it's like they're counting on Mike Santana. They look at Santana. Whether you like him or not, he's a
Hmm.
real guy. But you don't ever hear of him doing something stupid. Same with WWE. They have all their guys, whether it's Cody, whether it's Cena, whether it's Seth. You don't hear of him getting in trouble. Even AEW, as much as you can criticize right now Moxley. Moxley isn't doing anything where you outside of that stupid stunt where it's like, oh God, what the hell are you doing? Riddle is just, now he's on OnlyFans with adult content. And, then there's the drug problems he's had. Then there is, stealing a porn director's wife. There is his incidents, at the airport. I mean, you look and it's like, God damn, where's Matt Riddle going to do next? Oh, there it is. I mean, if you're MLW, how far can you go when your champion is somebody you look and go, he got canceled from WWE and UFC? That says it all.
Yeah. Well, for right now, it's okay. Right? For right now, it's okay because he has name value. And right now, they need all the name value they can get. Matt Riddle does have equity, like Bischoff said, controversy does create a little bit of cash, and they have a controversial figure. So when they do bigger shows, right, like people who aren't smart and are smart fans, super dialed in all the time, but watch Raw. At some point in time, someone is going to see a post like, "Oh wow, Matt Riddle does this," and they'll be curious to kind of go see what the bro is doing, and that's your chance to hook someone new. Right? That's the beauty of why you use a name. The So for MLW, they're listen, at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, you move on. But while it's doing okay for them, you ride it until you can't ride it anymore. And if they ever wind up in a position where, hey, we'll let you guys go to the next level, but we gotta have a conversation with your champion, then you have the conversation. Then you have the conversation. But I guarantee you that they're not going to be like, well, don't not have him on TV. You just have him on TV long enough to drop the title. The there is no downside at the moment. If Matt Riddle goes flying off the rails and does some crazy outlandish shit, and it is on the 5 and 6 o'clock news, then fine, it's a different discussion. But for right now, he's just kind of up to like just shocking hijinks that unless you are a corporate entity and you have a lot of shareholders to answer to, you're a privately owned company. It doesn't really bother you. It's not it's no sweat off your back. I don't care what my employees do in the privacy of their own home. As long as Matt Riddle doesn't have any essays or pedo nonsense, who gives a crap? Who he's plowing and what he's smoking. It's just that simple. It's the you know it, it's one of the fringe benefits of being a privately owned company.
We talked last week how for TNA, the good news were, and even in the NWA, the good news when you work WWE is you get access to certain people. The bad news is you can't get other people because you don't want to touch controversial people. You don't want to touch people who are persona non grata, different ways. You aren't going to be the second chance. Is that what MLW is now? The second chance, where the Shotzi Blackhearts, the Matt Riddles, Donovan Dijaks, who have shot their way out of town, they can go to there. It's like, all right, well, we're giving you a second chance.
I don't know if I would say that's MLW just yet. I'm trying to think of shoot, I'm trying to think of a good a good analogy. Um,
And not all of them have done bad stuff. Like just, but they'll
no,
take
no, I got you,
to
but like it
WWE.
can't.
Like Shotzi's now gone full. Like I could not stand WWE. This place was pissing me off. And you knew that once she said that, TNA was like, we can't sign you probably.
Mhm,
Same with Baron Corbin. Same with Donovan Dijak. Same
mhm.
now with Matt Riddle. It's like they can't go to TNA or NWA or because it's like, well, we're doing business with WWE. We can't have like people who are just taking a dump on it on TV. Like, sorry, we got passed. Does that help MLW? Yeah, we'll take you because they're not partnered with WWE right now.
But yeah, I mean, it's good for MLW because as long as you have name value, again, it's you get to kind of glom off of the name value. But in terms of MLW kind of being Second Chance Island, I don't think they're big enough to be Second Chance Island. They're it's just they just happen to be big enough that I mean, look, MLW is an indie that has money, but it's an older indie, it's a more mature indie, so the exposure is a little different. But let's not we can't get it twisted. It's still an indie. It's still an indie. The so it's like they haven't quite hit ROH status where it's an indie, but it's like that's the top tippity toppest of tier of indie. The like they that's it's if MLW can get a little more get a little more momentum, then fine, and they can kind of differentiate themselves, um, and fill that vacuum that ROH has left. Then yeah, then you could say they're probably Last Chance Island. But right now it's just MLW. It's an indie that has funding. So they're just get you just they're all just popping in and doing steady indie work. It's you know it's Southern OVW.
So before we let you go, I was thinking about this because everybody keeps saying, well, there needs to be better bookers. And you hear about it all the time with AEW and even with TNA and even with, to an extent, NXT when people complain, oh, well, everything is kind of boring there. Who is there, though, you could reach out and grab? Like right now, let's say Tony Khan decides, all right, I'm going to give the book to somebody and I'm going to trust them. Or even TNA goes, Hunter Johnson's not the right guy. We're going to bring somebody else in. How tough is it when you're looking around and it seems like there's a brain drain right now of active people who are, one, know how to book wrestling talent, understand wrestling in general, and two, they have even some success. Like who are the like right now, if you were, let's say, Tony Khan, who's out there that is still active? Because it's not, Bischoff's not going to walk through that door. Paul Heyman's not walking through that door. Jim Cornette's not walking through that door. And you're like, wow, there's not really a lot of people that you can
Yeah,
trust who have
the,
experience and know how to write good TV.
the fact that Tony Khan isn't leveraging Jeff Jarrett is insane to me. It's insane to me. I know people like to talk shit about Jeff Jarrett, but Jeff Jarrett has a phenomenal eye for talent. He just does. Jeff Jarrett is a guy who walks into a room and he can take a look. He knows how to pair people together. He knows how to pair people together who will work well together, and he knows how to get the most out of someone. He also can look in the room and knows where he sees potential. Jeff Jarrett had one indie match with Jay Lethal and was like, this kid took my finish better than anybody who's taken it on TV. There's something here, and then he made sure the world got to know who Jay Lethal was. Like Jeff Jarrett has a lot of undervalued talent in terms of putting a show together. Um, and he has generational talent that and knowledge that needs to be passed down. So the fact that you've got this guy there, like, listen, at the end of the day, if things could probably go a little bit differently, if Vince didn't leave, Jeff Jarrett would probably have been the one running NXT right now. The so you got Jeff Jarrett. You drop a bunch of money and you get Scott D'Amore. You drop a bunch of money and you get Tommy Dreamer. Like the fine, like Dutch Mantel and a lot of those guys, they may be a little too old to do it, but there's still guys that are knowledgeable who are out there. You just got to be willing to get your ego out of the way and let someone else do the book.
How tough is it finding those guys who also understand the modern, I guess, wrestling TV audience?
But
This, as I said, we had older generation. Like Cornette could, I don't, as much as people love Cornette, he did not, I don't think, could book today's wrestling in terms of getting casual fringe fans because they want different things. It's you have to understand how to get to a TV audience when you're having 8 different streaming networks, at least 500 different
Hmm.
channels, and so many friggin' damn shows you just couldn't get lost. I mean, that's what WWE has done. They've hired TV and entertainment writers. How many of those people in pro wrestling know that, understand that? I mean, you mentioned Dreamer. I'll give you that. Jared, in a little bit. I don't see Scott as that guy. Scott just is a more of an old school wrestling booker. So how tough is it, for these promoters trying to find somebody who understands, okay, I know how to dabble into mainstream, make things edgy, but still get those traditional wrestling fans who just want wrestling.
Storytelling is storytelling, and you're either good at it or you're not. It's the main focus needs to be on telling a coherent story, both short and long term. That's the sole mission. Everything else is you leveraging whatever resources you have. Again, we look at ECW as a prime example of this. ECW, like when you looked at the storytelling calendar, really it was like there were two stories, the world title and then the TV title. The tag titles were fucking, it was secondary. They never really had a feud. It was just who could we get good matches out of. Everything else was like, well, I'll put these guys together and we'll see what happens. And if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If it works out, we'll run with it for as long as we can run with it. And when it loses steam, it loses its steam. Um, like it's like how many times did the Dudleys wrestle the gangsters, or the Dudleys wrestle balls and Axel, just it was a lot of repeat matches, but then a situation would occur where we need to do something a little different. Well, guess what? Taz can't wrestle Candido, so in the main event, Taz is going to wrestle both Dudleys. Like most of booking is just being able to leverage your resources, and then where you have the time to really tell a fleshed out story is understanding how to tap into the human emotions. And that's why it's as simple as keep it simple, stupid. It's good versus evil. The only the and then what are the two main drivers? Well, the two main drivers are the winner's share of the purse, interpersonal beef. Winner's share of the purse will always inevitably transfer over to interpersonal beef, right? I can give you 3 weeks of story in 2 minutes, and it also understands why baby faces and heels do certain things, right? So it's not it's a matter of just getting someone who can tell a story, isn't going to overcomplicate it, and takes the time to develop the characters and nurture them, and then it's okay, now that everybody knows who you are, now it's time to start spicing up a bit. um but listen, if you again I Jarrett understood. Jarrett understands network TV. Jarrett understands cable executives. Jarrett has a deep understanding of that, has for a very long time. Dreamer has from pop to spending all that time in the WWE. The even well, like, same thing with Demore. Demore was there in the creative means he gets it. He has a particular style that he likes. It's again, it's the focus has got to be on telling a story, and not being worried about not being worried about chasing the pop. Listen, even like people, again, I'll say it, it's gonna be controversial, but people shit all over Russo. But Russo's greatest gift was that um Russo at Russo's age, Russo was young enough at the time that he was experiencing the entertainment angst that was happening, on TV in general. People were tired of the Donna Reed, Leave It to Beaver bullshit reruns, and they want a little bit more. And Russo understood that, like, side boob and cursing and just like outlandish shit was going to be the wave of the moment, and that attention spans were shifting, right? So like Crash TV, like Raw used to get you Raw used to get a lot in a giant amount of time. But what kills Russo is that when everybody calmed down and realigned, was that Russo just never adjusted to the reality of where people were. But you take a guy like Russo, and as long as you have a boss over him, he's probably going to give you more good than he's going to give you bad. You just got to be willing to go, nah, man, that shit, it's not going to work. And then the fact of the matter is sometimes you just get a guy who an idea is great on paper, but it might not work for the talent you have available for you. And I think that's just that Russo's biggest weakness, that he has ideas that could work with certain people, but like you have an idea for The Rock, but The Rock isn't here. No one here is The Rock. So if we're gonna try this, it's gonna be dog shit. So like there's people out there. You just gotta understand how to leverage the resources and be smart. Like, dude, wrestling is not hard. It's not hard. It's not hard. It's when you try to make it hard is when it gets all fucked up.
Well, we're gonna end on that note because this is a perfect scenario for everything pro wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, we always love having on the show. I give you its wrestling promoter, wrestler, father, and he was, as I said, he was ready to challenge Joey Chestnut. He got those hot dogs down, but he's like, God damn it, the girl's figure, can't give it up. I still have a waist size of 10, 26-ounce pythons. That's right. I give you a war dog himself, Kevin Apollo. So, Kevin, before we let you go, where can fans check you out? Where is the Twitter, Instagram, and what's going on with ACW Wrestling? We're in July now, so what big treats do you have for your summer platform for
Yeah,
American Coliseum Wrestling?
next week in the Middletown, New York, at the Gallery at Crystal Run is the All American Banger 2. So a nice live mall show, and then after that, we're going to be running out of the Haverstra Community Center the third Saturday of every month until school's back in session. We're gonna have some really big announcements soon. You just gotta wait for some things to get signed. But as we get closer to the end of the year, Tommy Dreamer, Crowbar will be back. Doing some shows with us. Hopefully, depending on the timing involved, trying to bring in Gangrel for a special Halloween show. I just gotta once I get the date committed. The only problem is, closer you get to Halloween, it becomes virtually impossible to book Gangrel because everybody wants him. But he's an awesome guy, so I'm looking forward to bringing him in. And then a Wrecking Ball will be back at some point in time. So we're gonna do some fun stuff over on the ACW side, along with just some restructuring, a couple of name changes, and a little bit of restructuring. It's going to be an interesting time for us, as we as we kind of look to refine the ebbs and flows of the business. In terms of where to find me on social media, I'm on Instagram. You can follow me at the House of Apollo, the House of underscore Apollo, APOLLO. Same thing for the YouTubes. I think the channel will drop. I think probably August or September. I'll let you guys know when the House of Apollo channel officially drops, and there's other cool stuff that. Oh, and then I'll be with a WW Pro. Lauren Carn and I will be hosting a show called Lauren and Apollo versus the World, where we're just gonna dive into all kinds of weird little funky pop culture things, and we'll take your questions and talk about your takes, and and go from there. So a lot of fun stuff coming up. A lot of fun stuff coming up. So just strap in, give me a follow. Give me a follow if just understand if you do follow me that I'm very open about my opinions. So if if you're a little soy boy, I would suggest you go otherwise. Go elsewhere. Go elsewhere. Unless you're willing to take the red pill. I have no problem being your Morpheus. Other than that, I don't want to hear it. Don't come in my comments or my DMs. I'm whining and crying because I don't have time for that.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, the man, the myth, the legend, Kevin Apollo. Always on our pleasure have you on the show. We come back, a lot more going on here. Only on Last Call with the Alcohol. Only on the Last Call YouTube channel.